Hi everyone, my name is Zach, and in this video we will add the separate details to this creature. What I mean with this are, for example, the teeth, the tongue, and especially all the scales. So basically all the objects which are not really connected with the main body. In this way we can add much more interesting shapes and details to the creature without trying to sculpt them all individually on the surface, which could be really a pain, especially if you quickly want to change all the scales at once. So, without further words, let's get started. Let's take a look at the concept art, and as you can see, we have all the scales here, and certainly this monster has some teeth here, and maybe we should also add a tongue. And as you can see, all these blue scales, these are separate parts. So we don't sculpt them into the mesh. We would just create a few scales and then just copy paste them all over the body. For this, we first separate some horns here because I want to move the jawbone with this horn down here. So let's switch over to edit mode. Select this horn, press P, selection, and now let's disable only render. Now I select this, then with shift the jawbone, control P, set parent to object, and now if I rotate this one here, certainly we have to set the pivot point to this area, and now as you can see, if I open the mouse, the horn is moving with it. Also the center point of this horn is somewhere here. So let's readjust this by pressing Ctrl Shift Alt C, the longest shortcut in the world. And then we set origin to geometry. Now you can see the center point is back at the object. This horns here we can parent to the body, Ctrl P, and also the eyes we parent to the body. And now we easily can open and close the mouse and add teeth and all that stuff. And this allows us later on to create a more interesting pose. Maybe we can open up the mouse a bit so this creature looks more interesting and we can see all the details. So I just take a reference image so I can see some teeth here. And as you can see, the lengths of teeth of dinosaurs are quite different. And they have this additional skin here, which also is interesting. So let's open up the mouse. And I would say let's go into edit mode of this horn, Shift and D. Press P, selection, because we now want to add a mirror modifier here. And this will be the teeth of the jawbone. And let's see what we can do here. I think the jawbone is quite interesting because of this shape in the front, and I think we won't add teeth there because this would look strange, I think. I would say we keep this for now. Now let's duplicate this stuff here. And in edit mode, let's rotate this and use this as basis for the teeth on the top here. So now since the horn down here was parented to this jawbone, the duplicated object, this here, is also parented to this and also this here. That means if I move this, you can see all the teeth are moving with this. So first of all, let's select the upper teeth, press Alt P and clear parent and keep transformation. That means the teeth will stay at this position after clearing the parent. Now let's select this again, then with Shift the head, Control P, set parent to object, and now they are moving with the body and the head. So if I move this up with pivot point to 3D cursor, you can see how this is behaving. And if I put this a bit closer, we can see if the teeth are interacting here with each other. So it would be good if the upper teeth are in the gap between the teeth on the jawbone. So let's adjust this according to this. So now let's try this out with the jawbone. And I think the only teeth which are interacting are these here. Let's move them to the inside a bit. And it's really looking nice if the teeth are not all pointing in the same direction. So and I think in the end we will do something like this, for example, where the mouth is a little bit open. So I think we also have to change something because these teeth are too close to this area here. Same thing up here, because here we want to add this kind of skin thing, which we can see here. This we will also add as separate object. So now let's add a tongue. This is again pretty easy. Let's add a cube. Control 3 to add a subdivision and place this inside the mouse. I select the jawbone with all the parts and press slash on the numpad, and now I only see this. Now let's add some loop cuts to define the shape of the tongue. As you can see, I don't put the tongue directly on the jawbone, so it looks a little bit more dynamic. And maybe later on we can also add some more geometry and some finer details to the tongue. But for now, let's keep it like this. Okay, now let's add this skin area here. And as you can see on this dinosaur, here's quite some space between the teeth and this skin. So I think we can delete some more teeth here. Let's go with this and maybe up here. Yeah, let's keep this as it is. Now let's add a plane, add a mirror modifier, a solidify modifier, and a subdivision surface modifier. And now let's place this on the right spot. And as you can see, if the mouse is not that wide open, we have this winkle in here. So let's add some loop cuts. Make this a bit thicker with the solidify modifier. And now let's move some vertices around here. Something like this. And now, if you like, we can apply all the modifier. Switch to sculpt mode, enable dynamic topology. Let's increase this and let's sculpt some finer details. And here I would enable front faces only, so we don't affect the other side. Alright, something like this. And certainly if we want to make the mouse more wide open or closes even more, then we can change this skin area, certainly. So now for adding the scales, we will create one or a few scales and then duplicate them all over the body. So let's create a plane, add a solidify modifier and a subdivision surface modifier. it thicker. And now let's shape a simple scale shape. And now let's apply all the modifiers. Let's increase the subdivisions, apply. And now let's switch to sculpt mode and add some details here. So as you can see, X mirror does not work. We need Y mirror. So let's enable Y under symmetry lock. And now, as you can see, the details are quite good. Now let's add some sharp edges and some more details here. Let's hit slash on the numpad, so this one is in the local view, so we don't see all the other stuff. And let's use a flatten brush to add this flat areas here on the side. Keep in mind that this still can look organic, so don't add two straight lines here. Okay, this is what I have here, and now let's try this out. Let's hit slash again, and now let's see how this looks on the body. So let's just start with the upper body here, with the back basically. There we have these big scales, and let's just see what we can do with only one scale here. Okay, placing this thing here on the body would be really a pain if we place them all by hand. And we will place them by hand, but we will let Blender help us a bit. So first thing, let's switch to edit mode and move the whole geometry a bit up. That means we are changing the position of the center point of this object. Now let's rotate this a bit. And let's imagine that this area here, where the center point is the skin. And if I now move this down, we can basically define how deep the scale should move under the skin. You will see what this means in a moment. Now let's enable snapping down here, and let's switch the snap element to face. And then let's enable these two buttons here. And now let's duplicate this with Alt D. That means these two things are linked to each other. That means if I, for example, change one thing, you can see it will automatically change on the other mesh. That means in the database of this blend file is only one mesh stored, and this will be linked to both objects. So basically we just have one object, and this will save memory. So certainly this only works if you want to have the exact same mesh. So I keep one up here, duplicate one down here, and I disable this stuff here. And you can see that the tongue and this thing here is on the wrong layer. Let's move this to the first layer. So if I now move this on the body, you can see with the snapping options down here, it will snap automatically to the body. At this stage you can't rotate this, so if you want to rotate this you have to press Ctrl. That means we disable the snapping as long as we press Ctrl, and then you can rotate this. So, and now let's add the scales on one side, and later on we just duplicate this to the other side. So we will save even more time. And keep in mind, press Alt D for duplicating this stuff, and certainly you can scale the scales. So, and certainly these two objects should also be on the first layer. So, and if you realize that they are still looking too far out of the skin, let's switch up here to edit mode and move this down, and you can see this will also affect this scale down here. So here we have to take care about that we don't add too much scales where the saddle is. So now I have changed one little thing. I disabled the snapping option, and now the snapping only is enabled when I press Control. That means I press Control to place this, and then if I release Control, I can rotate this a bit and move this around, and I think this workflow is much faster. At this place here, I want to rotate all the selected scales here. For this, I switch the pivot point to individual origins. And as you can see, then I can rotate all the scales at the individual origin. So by the way, I disabled the selection for the main body, so I don't accidentally can select this body here. And this is pretty helpful if you are selecting and duplicating all the scales over the body. So at the moment we only have 7 million faces. It's quite much already, but as you can see, it still runs quite smoothly and all the parts are separated, so this is not a big deal. Now we want to copy all the scales and mirror them to the other side. But there's a small problem. So let's just select one. Now let's duplicate this with Alt-D, right click. Now we have a duplicate. And now let's recenter the 3D cursor with Shift-C. And now let's set the pivot point to 3D cursor, Control M for the mirroring function, X for the X-axis, enter. Now you can see it won't mirror the rotation, and this is bad. And imagine that we need to rotate all the different scales once again. This would take forever. So there's a little trick. For now, let's move all the parts that are not the scales to a different layer. So now we have only the scales on one layer, so we easily can disable them later on. Now with Shift-C, the cursor is in the center. Now let's add an empty object. Select all the scales from the one side, except the empty object. Now let's duplicate them with Alt-D. Right click so they are jumping back to the original position. Now with Shift-I select the empty object, Control-P, set parent to object. So now they are moving with the empty object. And now I can mirror this with Control-M, X, enter. Now you can see it's perfectly mirrored. And now the empty is still selected. Now I press Shift-G and here I choose children. Now we will select all the children of this empty object. Now we press Alt-P, clear parent and keep transformation. Now we can delete the empty object, and as you can see now we have perfectly mirrored all the scales. Now we need to adjust this a bit because as you can see in some areas the scales are intersecting and here there are some empty spaces. We have to fill them with some scales. And also up here, and this I will do pretty quick. So now we have the scales all over the body, but you might think, okay, this looks nice, but all the scales are absolutely the same except the size and the rotation. So let's add some scale variations here and there. For this, let's duplicate the scale, this time with Shift D. And let's add some variations. So variations we can control with the grab brush, for example, to add a different shape. We can also use the snakehook brush or the grab brush to add some interesting additional shapes up here. Something like this. And let's create a third variation. Alright, when you're done with all your strange shapes, we can now easily copy them all over the body. Since the rotation and the position of the center point is all the same, we simply select the scales we want to change. For example, here on the head. So I now select this, then as last with Shift I select this one here, and now I press Ctrl L, make links and object data. And as you can see now I easily can change the scales. And this I will do for some of the scales here on the body. Alright, as you can see I'm done here. I don't edit too much variations, just in some special areas like here or here. It's like the hair, or here at the tip of the tail I added some special scales, also here, here and down here. So not everywhere and randomly, instead more precise in some very interesting areas. Alright. These three we can move to this layer here, we don't need them now. Alright guys, that's it with this video, and as you can see with the scales, this creature already looks much more interesting.